Right. We started recording a bit late. We had just given a summary of what was discussed so far. And now we're moving on to the third set of Sadhana Chatustaya. On page 3, the third set. Shamadhi sadhana sampatti kaha.
Samadhi sadhana sampatti kaha.
Shamodama.
Samodama.
Uparamati tiksha.
Uparamatiksha.
Shraddha.
Shraddha.
Samadhanam cheti.
Samadhanam cheti.
Thank you. So, in this, the student is asking, what is this sadhana sampatti, starting with Shama Adi, meaning starting with some Shama, etc. Sampatti is wealth. What is this wealth of sadhana? Right? And scriptures consider inner wealth as the most crucial. And the inner wealth is the self-discipline. The self-discipline is divided into 6 in Shatka Sampatti. And here the author is simply giving us the names of these 6. He says it's Shama, Dama, Uparama, Titiksha, Shraddha, and Samadhanam. Cheti, that is it. So then we continue. The last set on your page 3. Shamah kaha. I guess I muted you all again.
Shamah kaha.
Yeah. Mano nigraha.
Mano nigraha.
Right, thank you. So Shama is mind discipline or mental discipline or thought discipline, the poise and tranquility of the mind. Without tranquility of mind, whole of life becomes a burden. And it would be impossible to pursue any goals in life or any activities in life, let alone spiritual pursuits. Mano Nigraha is simply translated as mastery over the mind or resolution of the mind. This means regulation of the mind from external and internal disturbances like anger, desire, delusion, pride, envy, greed. Again, it's not a suppression. It's a cultivation that we do slowly. It's a channelization or skillful redirection of your thoughts. We don't suppress any of these things. We skillfully redirect them. Nigraha also means pure, right? What exactly is our mind? What do we use our mind for? We use the mind for knowing, remembering, or to entertain emotions, right? It stores memories and it stores past emotional impressions. When we feel an emotion like fear or anger or envy, none of us like these emotions. So we try to get rid of these emotions. When we feel an emotion like happiness, that no one says, let me try to get rid of some of this happiness. That's because this happiness is intrinsic to you. Shastra will tell you later in this text that your Swarupam, your very nature is Satchit Ananda, bliss. This is your very nature. So the happiness itself is intrinsic to me, feels natural to me. So we don't want to get rid of it when we feel it. It feels perfectly natural to us. But when we feel these emotions like anger, hatred, envy, we try to get rid of these emotions. But when the mind throws up these emotions, there is no use blaming the mind because the mind is not generating these emotions. The mind is simply revealing something which exists. So when we say resolution of the mind, we don't want to dull or suppress the mind. We must address what the mind is revealing, which is why we don't think going into samadhi or some state, some transcendental state like that is the solution for addressing any of these problems. In fact, this Vedanta camp I was attending just now, the Swamiji was talking about the frustrated yogi, the frustrated samadhi yogi, and it's actually very true. It's these yogis who do intense tapas and they become almost attached to this state of samadhi, right? And you'll see over years they start getting in the waking state, in their interactions they start getting more and more frustrated, more and more, they will have more and more anger in the normal interactions because they don't want to handle being in this state of duality anymore, which is understandable. That state of non-duality which they experience in samadhi can be very blissful. But that is not our goal here. Our goal is not to go into some kind of state. Our goal is to be here right now and see that while there is a perception of duality, that is not the reality. And hence I can live in this world of perceived duality and be completely content, be completely blissful. So that is not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to stun the mind or suppress the mind. A lot of these neo-Vedantians will say, destroy the mind. We do not want to destroy the mind. It's the only instrument you have to transcend this ignorance. So we're very grateful. We're very thankful to have this human body, this human birth, and this human mind, because this is the only chance, not the only chance perhaps, but the most priceless chance one can have to transcend this world of duality and come to the truth right here and right now. Right? So we are only trying to, so when the mind, coming back to what I was saying, when the mind is revealing something, any of these negative emotions which exist, we must address what the mind is revealing. How do we do that? There are many ways to do that, but for starters, you can just look at what the mind is revealing. Just look and sit with that emotion and see if you can observe it. Try to have a detached observer point of view and see if you can accept that emotion. When we feel any of these negative emotions, we waste a lot of time thinking, why am I feeling disturbed? I should not be feeling disturbed, bringing unnecessary shame into the equation. Even psychologists, a renowned psychologist actually says that any emotion that you allow yourself to feel fully, right, without any, bringing any shame into it, without trying to get rid of that emotion or anything, if you just sit with any emotion, no matter how uncomfortable, it will last a maximum of 20 minutes. Sounds unbelievable, but try it, especially try it with the small things, because it's harder when the emotions are big. When something big has happened, it's even harder to do it. But when you're feeling this, you're feeling all flushed with some anger because, say, someone said something rude to you, right? Instead of getting into the story, sitting with the emotion means not getting into the story of what it was. Simply sit and observe that anger. If it helps you, you can try to observe maybe the sensations in your body of where is that being felt, and don't attach any story to what's being observed, and just try to sit and observe that feeling. and you will see that it will pass very quickly. That's maybe just one of the many, many techniques, right? So the text Tattva Bodha itself will not talk about how to address these emotions or actually to build any of these sadhana Chatustaya. Bhagavad Gita will get into some of these. Right now, we are here to tell you what are these qualities that we would like to develop. And a little bit from other areas I'm bringing in just to give an inkling of what are some of the practices we can do. So you cannot obviously bypass your emotions. Like I was saying, you have to accept them. But you then also need a mind which is more or less abiding every time it's being overcome with anger or frustration. You can't really stop everything else that needs to be done and address that. So if you have the time and in that moment, you try to see what the problem, what is the problem that is being revealed. Otherwise, you highly recommend that you come back to it, right? That FIR that we talked about in the beginning, you must frequently note your FIR. So you might not always have the time to do it in that moment, but at the end of the day, or preferably at least not longer than a day, or if you can't really, like in the end of the week, you come and look at how was my FIR this week? What were the things which disturbed me? Why? It's much easier to do it when you do it closer to the disturbance, right? And really see that you're not pointing the finger outward at that point. Really, it's a bit uncomfortable sometimes coming to Vedanta because we are so used to blaming external circumstances, other people for our disturbances. And then Vedanta tells you, no one else can make you disturbed. No one else is responsible for your emotions. You yourself are responsible for your emotions. No one can make me angry. I'm allowing that person to make me angry. Right? So you have to look at what is being revealed. What is it that is being triggered in you? Of course, putting aside situations of, like, say, abuse or something like that. If the situation is clearly not conducive, you also do what you can to put yourself in a more conducive situation, remove that situation from your life if it's in your control. So it doesn't mean accepting things which are unfavorable and which can be changed. Talking about things which are in our control, but in the direst of circumstance, how you actually feel is completely in your control. Right? So there's this kind of a joke about this convict in a person accused of some wrongdoing who's standing in front of a judge, and he says, "But sir, it wasn't me. I am Brahman. I did not commit this crime." And the judge says, "Okay, that's great. You can be free. You go around being free. You're Brahman. I will only put your body in jail." Right? It's a joke, but it's like that with a real jnani as well. They can be in any circumstance and be completely free. There is this actually, there's so many of these inspiring swamis also. I'm not saying we need to be like those swamis, but sometimes it's very inspiring for me to look at people who've been practicing this teaching and reached old age. So there is this Swami who's 90 plus, who lives in the Dayananda ashram. So if you go to his room, he's still completely sharp. If you ask him any questions, he has a wealth of knowledge to share. And if you go to his room, there is this single bed in the middle of the room. and nothing else. Right? So, and if you go visit him, he'll just be sitting there perfectly blissful. He would not be on the phone checking something. There is no TV. There might be some books, but a lot of the time he's just sitting there perfectly content. He doesn't need any entertainment. He doesn't need to distract the mind. So it's like that. So whatever happiness you seek is completely within you. So making this mind available to you, that is Shama. So you can take the example. How do you, I said, when something comes up and something negative comes up, you don't look outwards, you look inwards. Let's take an example for this. Say you're at a dinner party with your spouse or partner, and they spend a lot of time talking to an attractive person and kind of ignoring you. And you feel this jealousy coming up. And you can, at that point, you can choose to focus your attention outwardly and blame the other for their behavior and say, they are being inconsiderate about my feelings. And you can focus your attention outwardly in a variety of ways. Or you could get curious. What is this feeling of jealousy revealing to me? What is it triggering inside me? Jealousy and envy can actually reveal your deepest fears. It might sound very funny, but try it when you experience any of these negative emotions. Get curious about it. I remember one of the first times this happened to me. It was amazing. I was in completely overcome by some deep sadness, and suddenly, like I was sitting, feeling that sadness in me. I'm talking about a few years ago, and suddenly, in a moment, the teachings came back. And I was like, why am I feeling sad right now? And I got curious, and immediately the sadness disappeared because I was so curious about what is this feeling of sadness. And then I kept inquiring into it, and I was almost joyful at the end of that inquiry. It works for me. It works for many people. Try it. It might work for you. So making the mind available to you is Shama. Thoughts are of two types. If you get voluntary thoughts and involuntary thoughts. And we have absolutely no control over the involuntary thoughts which come to us. They arise from what we call vasanas. Vasanas is a word you will keep hearing again and again, so you can make a note of it. Vasanas are habitual tendencies resulting from past impressions, either from this lifetime or another lifetime. So we are all born with a certain set of vasanas. You will see even in children, even in two siblings, twins even, one could be very outgoing, very friendly, wanting to play with everyone, and the other could be very shy, more introverted, wanting to sit quietly, play by themselves perhaps. So there are certain vasanas which we are born with, and then we keep either strengthening or weakening these vasanas based on what we do. So if you have a vasana for anger, right, it's good to know that I have a tendency to get angry, but it's not a predeterministic condition. It doesn't mean you will always be an angry person. You can work on it and become the calmest person there is. It's just that it's good to know that right now I have this tendency for anger, and then you work on it and you work on becoming a calmer person, getting a hold of that anger. So whatever involuntary thoughts come up, it's because of these vasanas. So when you have that first thought which comes, that quick reaction which comes, that's because of your vasana, and there is absolutely no need to judge yourself for that first thought. But the second thought which follows it, and the action which follows it, that is in your control. Usually, our thoughts are very, very quick, right? So it's from an input from the world coming to you, the first thought it triggers, and the second thought is hardly a few microseconds gap. With practice, you can increase that gap. You can increase your awareness of what's your reactions, and control or redirect what your next thoughts are going to be. So you don't react involuntarily as well. That's our pure animalistic tendencies. That's where humans have an advantage over animals. We are capable of analyzing that involuntary thoughts and deciding what we want to respond with. Even in our thoughts or in our actions, we have a capability to choose how we respond. So that second thought or action, that's voluntary, and that we have a control over. And that's what we have to try to develop. So again, you can practice with the small things. You're, say, on a holiday somewhere, and it starts raining, and your heart's saying, for all those plans I had, my day is ruined, right? I can't do any of those plans. I'm taking that example because it's raining in Rishikesh right now, and we had a plan to go on a hike later. Or you can say, it's how beautiful it is with this rain. Everything is even more fresh. Some of that pollution has been washed away. So we could probably get an umbrella somewhere and still carry on, or go sit somewhere and just enjoy this fresh smell of the rain and the grass. So, however, it's up to you. How do you redirect your thoughts? You can keep ruminating and going down that rabbit hole in negative thought patterns, or you can choose how you want to make a positive thing out of that. I remember this beautiful quote when we were not Vedantic, when we were kids in school. There was this story about this man by G.K. Chesterton, about a man whose top hat falls away, it gets blown away by the wind, and then he's chasing that hat, trying to get it back. So the man at that point can be very frustrated because he's having to chase this hat. Or actually, I think the man in the story starts laughing because he's really enjoying the fun of chasing the hat. And he gets in touch with his inner child, and he really enjoys it. So G.K. Chesterton says, an inconvenience is only an adventure wrongly considered. An adventure is an inconvenience rightly considered. There's so many things we would have probably, been more flexible with when we were younger, perhaps. We would have, many of us would have traveled by, second-class trains. Maybe the train was overcrowded, and you had to sit by the door or in between the two bogies, and we had an amazing time doing it. If it had to happen now, we would probably not even get on the train, So maybe our sense of adventure got lost. We're not able to do that anymore. So everything and most situations can be made better depending on the mind frame we have it. So Shama is thought management. Unmanaged voluntary thought, involuntary thoughts can turn into a tsunami and make your life miserable. And it's to get back this, to get back the mind to serve us for our goals, what we want to achieve in this life. We need to have a mastery over the mind. And there are many ways to do that. One way is pranayama. The breath and mind are very similar and very connected. You would have a lot of people would say, if you're feeling angry, count till 10. They mean like take 10 deep breaths and you will see something will happen. And when we teach pranayama class, we say, have you noticed what happens to your breath when you're agitated or disturbed or anxious? It's very short and very fast. And how is your breath when you're calm, relaxed, feeling happy? It's very slow and smooth, and you're taking much deeper breaths. So there is a physiological connection between your emotions and your breath, and this connection can be reversed. So when you are feeling disturbed, you can use the same breath to come back to the state of calmness. So pranayama is a beautiful technique, and I wouldn't recommend just doing it I wouldn't recommend just doing it when the situation arises, but having it as a daily practice. Have a 10-minute pranayama practice. It will give you a lot of benefits. Or meditation is another great technique where, it's something very strange that we cannot just sit by ourselves. Just if there is nothing to do, there's no one around, 2 minutes into sitting by ourselves, we reach for the phone, or we turn on the TV, or we put on some music. We no longer just are able to sit by ourselves. Why? Do we not like our own company? If someone else, a good friend, a dear one, wants to spend time with us, why can't we just spend time with ourselves? We should be able to, right? We should be able to spend time with ourselves, and we should be able to love our company. So we should just be able to sit in silence and not do anything. And a good way to cultivate that is meditation. You can try to have some kind of meditation practice which will instill that stillness in you. And you can also try to instill that stillness in you when you're just in little moments through the day. When there is nothing to do, just don't immediately reach for your phone or something else. Just sit and see if I can be in this silence, be in this presence right now for a few moments. So instill that stillness, instill that sattva. I will very shortly talk about what is sattva and all. So that is, I gave a few techniques. Like I said, Tattva Bodha itself doesn't go into the techniques of how, but Shama is thought management. Any questions on Shama? So to recap, we're doing the third of the Sadhana Chatustaya, Shatka Sampatti, which is the sixfold disciplines. And in that sixfold disciplines, we currently looked at the first one, Shama. Now we're going to look at the second of the 6 disciplines, Dama. You can unmute yourselves. On page 4, someone had a question? Okay. Right. Page 4, first line. Dama kaha.
Dama kaha.
Chakshuradibahendriya
Chakshurādipāyindriya
Nigraha.
nigraha.
Thank you. So Dama is very connected to Shama. It's the mastery or restraint over the external sense organs. So Chakshu means eyes, Adi, etc. Bahendriya is external. So it's Bahendriya is external. So it's also talking about your organs of action. So it is the mastery or restraints of both your organs of perception, like your eyes, ears, nose, touch, which your input organs, and restraint over your organs of actions, your hands, legs, all these, so on. We will go into details of what are all your organs of actions, but basically anything that any of your organs you use to interact with the world. So it also includes your organs of procreation, excretion, and so on, right? So an intelligent redirection of all your sense organs is Dhamma. So my sense organs can serve me, and I don't end up being a slave to my sense organs. That is Dhamma. How many of us here get a bit grumpy if they don't have their morning coffee or morning chai? Right? So if that's happening, that's an area where more Dhamma can be developed. Many of us might have a sweet tooth, perhaps. If we indulge in this need of the tongue again and again to have something sweet, what will happen? You will make that vasana for wanting something sweet even stronger. You just have, start with a little chocolate after lunch every day. The first day might be nice, the second day is nice, but the fifth or sixth day it becomes a need. I will want that chocolate, or otherwise my meal does not feel complete. So it's better to have some restraint over your organs of action, that hand which is reaching out to that sweet every day. So you don't keep strengthening that vasana. Many of us today are, at least thankfully, concerned about our diet, right? What we eat. We know that what we eat affects us, and we are careful with what we put in our mouth. I hope we don't hopefully indulge in too much sweet or fried food and so on. But how many of us actually consider everything else that we are consuming, all the other impressions that we are consuming, the shows that we watch, the music we listen to, even the news that might be playing in the background all the time with a lot of negativity in it, or the clutter on our desks or in our homes. All these are impressions that we consume. How much time we spend in traffic. These are all impressions that we consume. The environment we surround ourselves with, the kind of people we are around, all these impressions are also our diet. And all these go into making up our mental makeup. In Ashtanga Yoga, Dhamma is referred to as pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses. They both mean the same thing, different words for the same thing. If these organs are uncontrollably exposed to the whole world, then the whole world can enter your mind, and any part of the world has a capacity to generate involuntary thoughts. So no one knows this better than marketers, which is what I used to be. in my previous corporate life. There's probably not a single person here who didn't buy something at some point they didn't need because it was on sale. These marketing messages have a way to make you feel that you're lacking something. That's exactly what they're playing on. They're playing on this. They, even if the sense of lack is not there, they create a sense of lack so that the desire is generated, and then you want this thing to fill that sense of lack. They make you feel that if I had that great cell phone the person on the screen has, maybe then I can shoot as these beautiful, the same kind of high quality pictures or a whole movie on the phone, like they say in the ad. Or I can have this straight and silky and shiny hair like the person on the screen if I use this particular magic shampoo. And then I too will be as happy as the person on the screen. That's the impression they're trying to create. If you go to a movie theater, quite often, I don't know how many places they necessarily do it in India, but in the interval, they kind of spray the smell of popcorn in the theater. So you then feel like, oh, popcorn is what I need right now. And you go out to buy the popcorn, right? So they create a desire, the sense of lack, and make you want to do it. So if you have no control of your external sense organs, then all these impressions can enter your mind and cause disturbances, cause involuntary thoughts. Of course, you can't control all the impressions that you consume, which is why you need to also have restraint over your external sense organs. You need to also have, if Shama was already there, then Dama will not be required, right? If you have this perfectly calm, tranquil mind, then you don't need Dama. But most often, full Shama is not there, so Dama is required. We need to hence be like Gandhi's three monkeys. We should not see any evil or hear any evil or speak any evil. By evil, I mean negative impressions. So let's look at a related concept, which is the three gunas. Does anyone have any questions about what is Dhamma? Okay, actually, right now I don't need the. I'll put this thing in a while, the slide in a while. But right now, I'll just tell you. So there are. So we're digressing from the main topic to the three gunas, right? So the three gunas are Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. What is they are called, we will look at it more detail again when we look at Maya, but right now, because a lot of what we say keeps referring to these three gunas, so it's good to know. Sattva is the quality of purity or lightness, right? And Rajas is the quality of activity, action, and Tamas is the quality of dullness or inertia. And everything, let me see if I can actually put that up for you. I don't have that. Okay. Can you see my screen right now? Yes. Okay. So this is the, don't look at everything else which is there on that chart right now. I'll come to it. But right now, just for you to have the three names, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So when I was saying, like, everything in this world, everything that we see is made up of these three qualities. So it can be the food we eat, the kind of activities we do, any kind of impressions we consume. Everything in the world has these three qualities. All people have these three qualities. All objects have these three qualities, right? And depending on which kind of impressions you're consuming, those impressions will become part of you, will become part of your body, will become part of your mind. So this, what's that on the slide, I will come to a bit later because it's talking about what happens in your mind. So say when I say it's there in food, what kind of food is makes you feel light is sattvic. Can someone tell me what kind of food makes them feel? Let's make this a bit engaging. What kind of food makes you feel light?
Fruits,
Fruits, yes.
fresh vegetables, sprouts,
Yes.
juices.
Me, dal chawal.
Dal
Yeah,
chawal.
freshly cooked dal chawal, right? But the same dal chawal or even fruits, if you have them, like when their fruits are when they're overripe, or dal chawal, which is a couple of days old in the fridge, then the quality of the food changes, right? So it's not just the food itself, but what you do with it. That can become more dull. So if you have a 2-day-old dal chawal versus freshly cooked dal chawal, it can make you feel more inertia, more dull, more heavy. So then it's become tamasic food. And what kind of food is, in general, rajasic, which makes you feel more active? Can be
Fried
chili.
food.
Yeah.
Lot of spices, tadkas.
Yeah. There's what happens when you eat a lot of chili. It's you feel more like this rising of energy in you, right? So onions is rajasic, which is why for a spiritual aspirant they say sattvic food is recommended. So it's not because this rajas or so garlic they say is tamasic food. So at one point I had given up both onion and garlic, and I reintroduced garlic because an Ayurvedic doctor said for my digestion needed it at that point. So it's not that any of these foods are bad for you per se, it's just the quality you're trying to generate in your mind. So you can pick that which is conducive. So similarly, heavily fried food would be very tamasic. Anything which makes you feel heavy, like a lot of, if you put a lot of dairy, cream, cheese, pizza, for example, would be a bit tamasic. Meat is tamasic. So you just think about how your body feels after you consume these foods. Similar with any kind of activities you do. So there are certain activities which are very sattvic. Taking a walk in nature, meditating, reading a calming book, listening to calming music, right? Soft music. Just listening to the sound of birds. These are all activities which are very sattvic. Moving gently, gentle yoga. This can all be very sattvic. What's rajasic? What is activity generating? It's high intensity exercise can be rajasic. It's or anything which makes you move a lot, which can be rajasic. And tamasic is what? Sleeping. which is very required. So none of these are to be demonized. These are all necessary qualities. It's all necessary for us to feel tamasic at some point. Otherwise, we will not be able to go to sleep. We will not be able to have this deep, restful sleep, which is very necessary for the rejuvenation of the body. Right? So all these qualities are required and they have their place. But you don't want to feel tamasic in the middle of the day when you have to go about your work. So if you had a particularly heavy meal, you will feel very tamasic and you'll want to go take a nap. And instead of a quick 10-minute power nap, if you end up taking a 40 to 50 or 1 hour nap, you will wake up even more tamasic. Has anyone experienced that? You'll wake up feeling even heavier than when you went to sleep. So they say you can't go from tamas to sattva. You have to go from tamas to rajas to sattva. So if you're trying to get to a sattvic state, sattvic is, now we can come to the screen, sattva is a calm mind. Rajas is an extroverted mind and tamas is a dull mind. So if you're trying to come to a calm mind and what you right now have a dull mind, you have to go through rajas. The same, what does a dull mind mean? It's also when it's extremely dull, extremely heavy, this is also shows up as sadness, depression. So if you have a depressed person, and you're trying to make them into a happy person, it's better you introduce some activity to them, right? So you engage them in some kind of activity, because from there, from tamas, they can get to rajas, and then they can get to sattva. So for a spiritual aspirant, sattva is very conducive because it reveals awareness. Both rajas and tamas hide awareness. So sattva, if your mind is sattvic, it's when the mind is present, wise, happy, and free from desire. If the mind is rajasic, it's prone to anger, anxiety, frustration, aggression, even boredom. All these are rajasic qualities of the mind. And tamas, like I said, is dull, sluggish, lazy, prone to depression. And when sattva is predominant in the mind, then truth interprets the experiences that you have with the world. If the mind is rajasic, you will interpret with the desire. Right? So that is, for example, you're taking a walk in the garden and you see a beautiful flower. A sattvic mind will look at the flower and say, wow, that's beautiful, and take in the beauty of the flower. A rajasic mind will say, oh, I want this, and pluck the flower, causing himsa to the plant. And in a tamasic mind, fear interprets the experience. The child is going near the flower and the mother says, no, you'll prick your hand on the thorn. So that's tamas. So the upside of sattva is it allows proper discrimination, that viveka can become clearer. Rajas is also required and is a great motivator to accomplish things in the world. If you have worldly goals, especially, rajas would be required to go and accomplish those goals. And the upside of tamas, like we said, is it allows one to rest. It's very required for that. But for self-inquiry, sattva predominantly facilitates self-inquiry, and rajas and tamas predominantly hinder self-inquiry. Right? So these are the three gunas which are existent in everything that we see. So when we say, if you're interested in spiritual life, you want to cultivate, it would be conducive to cultivate more sattva in the mind. Any questions on the three gunas?
Some saints, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Avinash.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah. I have read that some saints like Swami Samartha, he used to rinse the food so that there is no taste on that.
okay.
Whenever he was served the food and all that, he should not feel liking or disliking of any food. I have read about that he has washed the food, or you can say rinse the food, so the taste is removed, the salty or sweet or whatever it is, and plain food he has done. I don't know how much it is makeshift to, but what is your opinion on this?
Could be true. It could be someone's way to do it. I don't see any reason to do it necessarily. When Vedanta is not asking you to stop enjoying the things of the world. There should be this pursuit should be very joyful. I'm trying to discover my own nature. It's a joyful pursuit. It doesn't need to be harsh or stern or cold. If there is beautiful food set in front of you, like heat it and enjoy the food, right? To a certain degree. So you stop, you take in as much as required, you enjoy the taste of everything, and then stop when you're 80% full, right? If there is enough sattva, you will be able to do that. If there is too much rajas, you might end up overeating and then you get into tamas, right? So you should have sufficient dama there to restrain yourself when required. But if things of the world are giving you joy, like there is no reason not to enjoy it, completely enjoy it. But even at that point, you need to practice that discernment, both at the point when things of the world are giving you joy and at the point when things of the world are not giving you joy. When things of the world are giving you joy, you should not come under the mistaken impression that I am joyful because of this, that I'm happy right now because of I have this thing or because I have this person with me. So that's a thought based in ignorance. That is a lack of viveka, and that is what will cause you suffering later. It can cause you suffering even in that very moment if you have that thought. If someone you love is with you and you're enjoying their presence instead of being simply present and enjoying it, if you have that thought that, oh, I want to keep this forever, I'm happy because this person I love is with me right now and I want to keep it forever, you're not far from the moment where then the fear creeps in and says, oh, but I might lose this person, right? So anytime you feel this joy from something external of the world, you have to realize that it is simply a mirror which is reflecting the joy which is already there. Your joy is not dependent on that external thing. And similarly, when something in the world is making you sad, right? Why is that? It's because the mind is disturbed at that point, and the mind is not clearly able to reflect the joy which is already there. So you can try to, if you want that, but the joy is always there, right? It's just right now you're not able to perceive it because the mind is disturbed. So you can observe it, try to remove that disturbance so that perception is clear, but that is simply to enjoy the benefits of that joy right now. But you should always know that the joy is ever present, it's ever available, and that is me.
Right.
Any other questions? It's 9, so I won't take any new topic now. But just
I have a question, please.
yes, please go ahead.
I wanted to ask, how do we control our involuntary thoughts? Because most of the time they are unpleasant.
You cannot. That's what I said. Your involuntary thoughts, you cannot control. I mean, that very first thought, right, that you have, what I'm calling involuntary thoughts is the very first thought. As soon as you become aware of that thought, it's no longer involuntary. So the very first real involuntary thought, you cannot control. That's based on your vasanas. And hence, there is no need to judge that thought. There is no need to have any kind of aversion or any kind of raga dvesha, like any towards that thought. But the second thought you can control, because now it's in your awareness. So now it's up to you what you want to do with that thought, right? So you can, if you don't get carried away with the tsunami of negative thoughts, as soon as you become aware of it, you can redirect, you can shine awareness on it, and you can redirect those thoughts to something more positive. Does that make sense?
Yes, please.
Any other questions? Okay, great. Then we will end with the final prayers. Okay, we'll just do the prayer right now. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Om Tat Sat. Thank you.
Thank
Have a good week, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.